Welcome back to Diary of a Medium Stories from the Spirit World podcast. My name is Em and I am your host. And today I have a beautiful guest, Michelle Lee. So let me tell you about Michelle. She is a soul-led business mentor, intuitive guide, and meditation teacher who bridges the worlds of spirituality and business. She has practiced spirituality her whole life and over the last 10 to 20 years has really truly tuned in and come home to herself. She leads from truth and life experience and helps other women to do the same. She is the founder of the She Leads movement on the Gold Coast, where she helps women lead their lives and businesses through her community retreats and her podcast, Tap In with Michelle Lee. If you tap in there, you will see moi on there too. So go and have a look. Welcome, Michelle.
Welcome, and thank you. What a beautiful intro. Thanks, Em.
It's all you, babe. It's all you. Thank you so much for being here today. I'll give you a little bit of a backstory about Michelle and I. We met some years ago. It's been quite a few years now through the coffee connections that Michelle runs on the Gold Coast, and she does these to bring beautiful women together in the community. And I was looking really just to connect with some people, find some of my tribe, and came across Michelle and came to some of her coffee connections. And then we became friends, and she invited me to facilitate some of her ceremonies with her, which was a very big privilege to do that. So thank you. And then, yeah, our journey of friendship has continued and woven together. And yeah, here we are.
Here we are. Thanks, Em. And how long have we known each other now?
There might have been a few margs in there as well. Let's be honest. There was probably a few margaritas in there as well. And I invited you as well because I love to tell people stories of how they got to be running spiritual led businesses, because I think it's something that we don't go through school and go, what do you want to be when you grow up? Oh, I want to have a spirit led business, or I want to talk to dead people. It's not really the thing, right? I'd love you to kind of share with your listeners. You mentioned that you've been spiritually connected your whole life. Tell us a bit about that.
Okay, I'll give you a juicy part just to start with. So, when I was little, I'll just go into this a little bit and then I'll go 20 years
Yeah.
on. My brother passed. So, from that, he gave me a gift to see, feel, hear, and connect with spirit. When he passed, it was a few years on, and I saw my first spirit or person, which was my great grandmother, in the mirror when I was 12 years old. And from there, my journey started. My dad was in with Wicca back in the day, whether we want to talk about witch or warlocks or whatever the case may be. And he was a big follower of the Aleister Crowley, which is very old school, but it was more of a, like I said, Wicca that came into the spiritual awareness or the spiritual world or whatever you want to call it. So I suppose roll that on for 10, 20 years, 30 years on, and I could see people I connected with, and I'm talking about spirit. I don't want to call them dead people, but I talk to the invisible people. I connect with them. I channel. So if I was with somebody, and if something just came out, I would always just share that with them if it was okay. I always had to get their permission. Roll that on until about 2017. And I was in the starting of going through a big breakup at the time. So I went and did some meditation, and I was looking to really connect in with myself and get the strength that I needed to move forward. And that's where meditation came into it. I was always a yo-yo meditator, but 2017 is when I just went, okay, I'm all in. I'm going to do this now. A few years on, I separated from my partner at the time, and that's when I went full deep dive into my journey. Along the way, I stopped talking to spirit. They were always into me and they always wanted me to do this work. I actually stopped them And so they connect with me in a different way now. So I had to do a lot of groundwork to get their, I don't, I wouldn't say, I don't like the word approval, but get to know that I was all in this time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was all in it because I've always been half in, half out. So 2017
Mm,
is when I went all in. 2020 is just when I separated and I came back into studying Reiki. I
right.
studied Reiki 20 odd years ago when I was 32, when spirituality was looked at really funny. So I'm really blessed with where we're going in the world, that spirituality is one of the most important things that we can give ourselves, our insights, our magic, and whatever feeds our soul. And yeah, 6 years on, fully tapped in, dived in. Now I'm a Reiki master. I talk to spirit. I have a council of light now. I bring in truth. I'm a bit of a truth seeker and very authentic. People, you either get me or you don't get me, and that's okay. I do take people on tangents. I'm not perfect. And it's taken me a long time to basically come back into myself and go, I'm
Don't need
doing the
faith.
best. I'm just doing the
Yeah.
best I can. When I take people come to me for healings, I take them on a journey. So it's just not Reiki. I'm intuitively guided whether they need to be activated on a different level for them to see the message. It depends on what's going on for that particular person for that particular day.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And I like that you said the truth seeker and that we don't have to be perfect, right? It's interesting because 2017 was literally when my deep dive started as well, because that was the year that my dad passed.
Yeah.
So that was something that activated that within me as well. And I totally recognize, and I'm sure that people listening will as well, that full circle as well, being in and being out. And as we know, if we're meant to be in, spirit are not leaving us alone too much, right? They're going to, I always call it the frying pan on the head. It starts quite subtly, then it gets a little bit louder, and then at some point it's like you can't ignore it anymore. And I love that you said that you had to find a different way to work with spirit. Can you tell us a bit more about what you mean about that?
Yeah, sure. So I mentioned before that I used to see spirit. A type of person that can walk into any surroundings, scope the place out, and I'll know exactly, I can read the room. I can
Mm,
read every person's, if something's going on with them, I can read what I can actually read them, whether you want to call it aura or whatever the case may be. And
yeah.
with spirit, I used to be able to see them. I used to see what they were wearing. I used to see them. So when I was going through my vertigo, I had vertigo for 8 years. I actually told them to go away.
Okay.
Don't want nothing to do with you. I was in a blaming mood. Why is this happening? I was in very victim mentality mode. Whereas this time around now, as source and spirit have been working with me, and I've been not proving myself, but no source knowing that I'm all in, I now feel source.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel it more. Everything with me is about a feeling, and that has been my big life lesson. Is I have to feel everything because I never used to. I used to be a leprechaun or a chameleon to fit in with other people, and it's taken me a long time to land where I am now. But now I work with the Council of Light, and I work with Joseph, Mary, and Rose. And
Okay.
Joseph is very, not heavy, but he's very known in my vibration. He's the one that talks to me. But yeah, it's more of a feeling
Okay.
than see.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people are always worried, aren't they, that doing this work that we're going to see people that's passed everywhere. And I know certainly for me, especially in the mediumship space, which is where I was always curious. I was always the person that wanted to go to the mediums or watch them on the TV, or I kind of didn't really realize at that time that meant that maybe I could do that or like I was being guided there. But I think also what scares people is a lot of people have an experience where they, whether it's when they're a child, whether they when they see someone that isn't invisible people, and then it scares them and shuts it down, and they're frightened to come back around to it because they don't want that to happen again. So I love that you said that you were able to find a different way to work with them, because I also understand that for me, where I found that it was the contact was too overwhelming. It was too much. I was really struggling with the capacity of all of this stuff that was happening around me that I couldn't explain, that other people were kind of looking at me like, is she going crazy? And me going, am I actually going fucking crazy? And so then that scared me. So then that's when I was pushing it away, and I was like, I know you're there, but no, I know you're there, but no. But I think as well, it's important for people to understand, and because I hear a lot in the industry, spirit in charge, spirit in control, or we are working for spirit. But I actually do see it a little bit different to that. Yes, we do, but it has to fit in with how we want to be able to make it work with our 3D and our human, right? Because there has to be that balance somewhere, unless you're fully want to go out somewhere in the bush and have a little hut and purely just be connected to 5D source. We have to be human. I have to be mum. I have to cook dinner, do those things. And I think that was something that was never really said to me in my journey. It was like spirit in charge. You have to do as they say. And that's why I pushed it away. But I love that you've said how you have found a way to work with the Council of Light that works for you and with you and through you to guide you. And like I work quite closely with my own spirit guides mainly, and I do sometimes have other people. I remember at the beginning of my journey having Priestess Isis come to me, and I was like, I do not know what's happening and who are you? And I didn't even know anything about her or who she was. I had to actually end up looking her up. But she became a great guide to me at the beginning of my journey, until one day she said she was leaving because her job was done there, and off she went. And I haven't seen her since. But that was cool. That was super interesting. And I think even you don't have to have these big woo-woo experiences either, right? We talk about coming back to self, knowing self as well. Yeah.
I think it's a lifetime lesson. So whether you, it's not called a gift now, but it's just a knowing. And I think that's where I've come into. It's just a knowing, and I've really had to trust that. I had spirits when I used to get readings, like years ago. They used to say to me, "You need to come onto our side. We need you, Michelle. Go." And they used to guide me. You need to be near the water. You need to start doing the readings. But it's not until that we can fully step in and we can trust ourselves. And I was back in that time, in that space. I wasn't trusting myself at the time. I had it always there. I could pop
Yeah.
in straight away and see the invisible people and what they were doing in the message and stuff. But it wasn't until now that I tap in with them and just talk to them. That knowing.
And you, yeah, and I love that actually, because I think the biggest thing that people say when they come into this space is like, I'm receiving stuff, but I don't know if I'm just making it up. Or I'm receiving things, but I don't really trust what that is. I don't know what it is. I can't work it out. So there's always this trust factor of what we're receiving. And I think, and it's really hard to get your head around, because it's just accept what's coming in and trust that. But we're humans. Humans can't just trust something that they tangibly don't understand or know about, right? We're not about to trust someone in the street that we've never met before. We're going to be apprehensive about what that looks like. And I think that's okay. But it's learning to understand how spirit uniquely work through you, because I think we're all here on different missions, right? We're all here to bring something different, but in a collective way. I know that sounds contradictory, but we all have a different mission, but the overall collective mission is maybe raising the vibration of the
humanity. And it's funny,
yeah.
you say that, and because the issue that I had and why I didn't come out sooner is I was in the spiritual closet, and you don't hear a lot of that these days. No.
Yes. Oh, you'll be surprised.
Really?
I come across it, like I've actually did a podcast episode on that, and I come across it a lot
Wow.
in mediumship in this space. People who are wanting to develop their gifts but they're scared. They're scared of what their family are going to say. A lot of it is because they are connected to religions that then if they start talking about this stuff, like then they're going to be outed or they're not going to be accepted in their family environment. Friends that don't believe it and think that they're making it up or they're telling lies. Like you'd be surprised actually
That's
how many
interesting.
people.
Yeah, that's interesting. So that was one of my biggest issues I had within myself. And that's another thing that I've opened myself to in the last 10 years, that I am who I am. I speak, see, feel, all the rest of it, and I'm okay with it. I started reading books when it had to be 35 years ago, and I started studying crystals, meet psychic workshops in my early 30s.
Yeah, yeah. And I think this is the thing is it's really hard, isn't it? I definitely was in the spiritual closet for a long time. And when we do come out of there, we are going to shed people. People are not going to understand us. People are going to be like, I've known you all this time and you've never said that. A lot of the people in my world didn't even really know that part of me existed because I never really shared it with anyone.
Yeah,
And it wasn't until I had my huge spiritual awakening when my dad died. And then in 2022, I went through a dark night of the soul until 2023 that that I was able to kind of shed those layers of conformity and really start to get curious about who am I underneath all of the conformity that I'm or behavior to fit into different places. And I did shed people along that way, and I'm all right with that. I wasn't, but I am now. And I realize that it is part of the journey. If you're listening to this and you're like, I'm really afraid that someone's not going to understand me, the people that love you for you and who you are will understand. The people who want to judge that and reject that part of you, then they're not the people that you want to have on your journey with you anyway.
they're not your people. And I was living such a false identity back then when I was breaking away from my partner at the time. And you mentioned Dark Night of the Soul, and I hid myself for 12 months. I hid myself. I was a single mum with two girls, all the bits and pieces, and I hid myself while going through my vertigo and just re-identifying who I am and what I was. And it was really dark. I wouldn't say dark, but it was getting quiet. It was quiet and just listening.
Yeah. Like literally what happened to me was the end of 22 into basically the middle of 2023. Like I had pretty much everything around me foundational stripped away from me.
Yeah,
Yeah. So my business, council, like stuff with the council, with the business. And then after renovating our house, we came home from holiday to find our whole house was flooded.
really.
And we just spent all of this money renovating this house, and we ended up having to move out into various being Airbnbs for 5 months. Like I didn't have even a home. It was the stuff that went on in that time was so crazy that it was the thing that made me stop and say, what is it that I need to know about this? Because I spent a good 6 months like my husband as well, like very much in victim. I can't believe this happened to us, like all the business stuff with the council, and we were angry, and there was so much like blame and all of this stuff. And then just when we thought we'd sort everything out, we had another council visit, and it was like almost like the straw that broke the camel's back, if that makes sense. And that was the one thing that stopped me in my tracks, and I was like, something is fucking going on here that I need to know about. And I went from like, how this is going to be terrible, this is the worst thing that's happened, like I can't believe this is happening, blah blah blah, to how can we solve this issue?
Exactly.
What needs to be done? And it was like a switch flipped in me. And we've talked about this, and we shared this on your podcast that's coming up as well. It's like almost like it was the same scenario, but I was looking at it from the mind and from the victim and from the, oh my God, how could someone do this to me, and all of this stuff. Like I would never do that to someone. And then it switched to, I need a solution to this problem. And I remember the guys coming out to get some building guys. It was a building issue that we had, came out, and he was like, oh, I don't know if we're going to be able to solve this problem. And I was like, I don't want to hear that. I was like, I want a solution. So we're not looking at what we can't do and what can't happen. We need a solution to this problem. And I actually gave him a solution. And I went, if we did this and this, would that work? Because I've seen that. And he was like, oh, didn't really think about that. Let me have a look at that. That can solve my own problem, right? But I needed him to actually do the thing. But it was just that switch of understanding. And if you're listening to this and you feel, oh my God, I can't have anything else happen, this has happened and that's happened and this happened, like I really encourage you to just sit with that and say, how can I create another outlook on what I'm looking at right now in order to solve a problem, which is then going to take away the burden, the overwhelm, the stress, whatever that is. And I think that's the biggest thing. What can happen is we keep ourselves in this rumination of going over and over like a scenario in our head, but never seeking a solution. I don't know how we got down to that tangent, but anyway, it just went down the rabbit hole.
But that is so true. So there was a scenario that happened when I was living on my own, and I had to really work with letting go of the control. And as I was saying, a single mum of two young children at the time, I was going from St. Vinny's to the Salvation Army, looking for food vouchers. This is all part of of my experience to expand me. I was getting my rego paid, my electricity, I was getting food vouchers, the mattress I sleep on, it was given to me. And all while I got really quiet, because I knew deep down that because I was such a people pleaser, that I put this person, and we can go on to this with another conversation, I put this person onto a pedestal. And it was the last person that I said to myself that I will never put on a pedestal, because how I see them and what the reality is was two different things. So there was a distortion going on in my world at that particular time.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. And what happens is the universe puts you in a position where then you have to make different decisions, right? And I think if we can always come back to, if this was happening for me, what would I need to know about this scenario now? And that happened to me in that dark night of the soul. It was like I was so far in the bottom that there was no further down I could feel like I could have gone. Like there had to be some light somewhere at the end of the tunnel. And I think this is the thing. If you're going through this, know the light is there at the end of the tunnel. You just have to choose to turn around and face the light. And the light you can then draw towards that light. And I think that was the biggest thing I learned about myself. And we talked about this before. It's changing your perspective on when things are happening to, is this happening for me for a reason? And I know for me, when my business got shut down and then I rented somewhere else, this was my beauty business, I rented somewhere else. which was a lovely place. But I had problems in that place that weren't getting resolved, and I was asking for a resolve and it wasn't. So I moved to somewhere else and then had the same things happen. So it was just like everything was pushing me to say, this is not what you should be doing, right? You should not be here doing this. And eventually I listened, eventually.
Eventually. And they say it loud. They go,
That's a frying
well,
pan on the head, right? It's a frying pan on the head eventually. It's if you, I'm going to make you listen to me. And a lot of that is, even if we call it intuition, right? And we say it's where I made decisions and didn't trust myself. I knew that I wanted to come and do this work, but at that particular time, I didn't trust that I could fully step in here. So I clung on to something, I kept something else, because if we're taught that we'll have a plan B, so if it doesn't work out, you can go and do this, so that kind of thing. But eventually, yeah, it was everywhere I was looking, it was not working out. So eventually I was like, okay, I surrender.
gosh, I think, yeah, meditation saved me. Meditation
Yeah,
to me. I
okay.
chose to, I put something online, somebody reached out to me, and we both know her. I'm very good friends with Mel now, and all I was looking for at the time was to study to be a meditation teacher. And that
Yeah.
meditation physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally saved me on every level.
Awesome.
And I've been
And
meditating every single day. I can do it for hours. I can drop in anywhere and I practice it. And I would say that was my thing that saved me after the upheaval of what I put myself into and what I had to go through to become to this soul of light that we are now.
And I think it's good to say that as well. A lot of people are like, I can't meditate, I can't meditate. Look, I'm not a great meditator, I have to be honest, but it doesn't have to be a massive big thing. And I think we said this, right? It's you can just stop for a moment, feet on the ground, and take 3 deep breaths into your body. I meditate a lot in the shower. I get my biggest download informations in the shower. Yeah, when the water's cleansing me, that's pretty much when I leave my mind and open my mind to spirit, and they give me lots of downloads like in the shower. And but I think that even just mindfulness and meditation is a practice, it's anything else. So ride the bike, drive the car, you just have to spend a couple of minutes and build on it. And I know that you have some beautiful meditations on Insight Timer. So I'm going to make sure below that people can find you on Insight Timer. If you have not heard of Insight Timer, you need to get on there. It's a beautiful app, donation based as well, for meditations and allowing yourself that time. Sometimes people think they can't meditate because they don't have time. And I think that time is an illusion, right? We always have time for the things that's important, even if we're busy. It's really important to remember that even if you can create time for someone to send them a message and say, hey, I'm thinking about you, like that's all it needs sometimes. Yeah, it doesn't need a big window of time. And I think that gifting yourself, especially when we're busy in this day and age, we're super busy. Time moves quickly. The day is here and it's over before it's begun. So, mindfulness and really coming back to ourselves and gifting ourselves just 5 minutes a day to be with us. And I think it's another conversation, but I think like scroll mentality in social media has definitely become something that's had us disconnect from ourselves, because there's something else more exciting that we can be looking at or watching than really connecting with us. But it is causing lots of disconnect for people, I think. Use it for good. Find the Insight Timer. Find Michelle. Do some of her lovely meditations. And I guess, Michelle, if I'm going to put you on the spot here, if you had one piece of advice for anyone that's looking to really maybe learn more about themselves, what would it be?
Choose yourself. Tap into
Oh, say that again.
yourself.
Tap into you.
Tap into you, no matter what. and just
Yeah.
trust
Learn more about yourself, hey?
more about yourself.
I think it's really important to say that because a lot of the time when we think about that, we think we know. But I know when I last year went on a dive and I remember Spirit having me write at the top of a journal that said, "Who am I when I am not a mother, a wife, and a friend?"
Oh, I just wrote this down. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I was in Ubud at the time in Bali after a retreat I went to, and I was completely stuck. I had no clue. I did not know. Start there.
Yeah, tap
Start there.
of what light you are.
Yeah.
When you
Yeah.
figure out what light you are, that will bring part of the puzzle, if you want to call it that, or part of the missing links to who you
Mm,
are. It's so funny you
reconnect.
saying that, Em, because I had a download the other day, and that was a mask or something that I was wearing. I had one of my old medium mentors, and she said to me, "So who are you, Michelle? Not your mum, not the mother that you are, not the friend, but who are you?" And this is when I was organising my Bali retreat back in 2024. I looked at her and I said, "I have no idea." 2 years
Yeah.
on, I've actually wrote this download of who I am, my love. So I'm
Love it. Love it. Awesome. So, yeah, get a journal. Write on the top, who am I? Yeah. What do I love?
good idea, actually.
What
What a good
do I
prompting.
like to do? What's my favorite color? What are anything? Just making it about you and what, not that I'm a good friend. No, not that I'm a good wife. No, what are you when you're not that person to someone else? And that's the other thing that's really important because a lot of our value we put on the person that we are for someone else. I'm a good mum, right? But that's for you're a good mum to someone else. So I think really looking at that, and it's not to say you're not, but bring it back to self. And I think this is the thing, we tie a lot of our identity to external sources as well. You might have to go down the rabbit hole with that one.
Yes, writing 10 things like you love sunrises, you love sunsets, you love
Yeah,
just simple, basic things that
yeah,
sometimes us humans tend to, I'm not going to say take for granted, but wake,
it's overlooked.
yeah,
Maybe overlook, right?
yeah,
Because we're looking for the big thing or the where our worth is validated, right? But we need to validate ourselves and we need to validate the qualities and the things in us. If I always used to, and often that can start with even things that you reject about yourself or that you don't like about yourself. And it's mainly things you don't like about yourself because other people have pointed something out about you, right? For me, it was always talking. So I would get triggered if someone said, "Oh, you talk a lot," or "M talks a lot," or "Do you ever shut up?" I've had someone say that to me
really.
before. And then, of course, what happens is that triggers you to then shut yourself down because you then believe, oh, I talk too much. But do I talk too much? Or is that my superpower? And I think that that's someone else's opinion, but that can also then have an effect on us. And generally, the things that we want to reintegrate are the things that we have rejected because of someone else's opinion of it as well. Look at me. Now I'm doing podcast and I talk a lot. So it's great. It's just training me to be here.
With the trust yourself, trust the nuggets. If something's that's what I needed to explain that. When I trust yourself, okay, how the fuck do I trust myself? Okay, do you get something really small, or do you get something that's quite silent but whispering in your ear? Do you get something that's just going that you have to make that phone call now, or you have to reach out to that person, or here's another easy one. And if you're driving home and you're guided to take the left hand, to take the left, to, sorry, restart that, to take the left turn rather going on the right, that's your way of trusting yourself. Just the nuggets, just the little bits.
Yeah. And it all starts in the little bits, isn't it? Just those little things. And that builds the trust. And we're always being guided, but whether we pick the breadcrumb up, whether we listen to the nugget, is then up to us to pick that up and say, let's get curious. That's interesting. Amazing. Thank you so much for your chat today, Michelle. So it's been lovely having you here, and we could talk for hours. I could talk forever. But that's all good because I love that about me now. It's one thing I did used to reject, but now it doesn't bother me. I know that people enjoy because they tell me, I love listening to you. And I was like, even my accent, yes. And I'm like, okay, that's good.
So I just love you. And I love all the bits about you. I love all your bits.
Feelings mutual. I love all your bits too. All right, gorgeous. We will speak soon. And thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me on. Thanks for having me on.
You are so welcome.
Take care, everyone. Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Diary of a Medium, Stories from the Spirit World. If something in today's episode has sparked something within you and you are curious about your own spiritual gifts, then check out my website on how I can support you. If you have your own story to share, then please reach out. I'd love to hear from you. If you want to support me, you can subscribe, leave a review, or simply share this with a friend. So until next time, trust yourself, trust spirit, and keep listening to the whispers from the universe. Bye for now.